Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 180. Special episode here after Super Sunday. Obviously, coming back after the Super Bowl that was in Las Vegas. Here with my co-host Chelsea Hopkins, Ani Amana. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. I wish I actually was in Vegas for the Super Bowl. Like I felt super, bummed that I wasn't in the city. We were finally hosting, but everything turned out good. I call it the Usher Bowl. He performed. He did great. Kansas City won like everybody knew they would. So, there it is.
Yeah. Ani, what do you think? Your first reaction to that Super Bowl and it being in Vegas?
Oh man, I wish I was there too. I couldn't make it. I love Vegas, so I hate that. I hate that I couldn't be there. But I watched some of the game. I ain't gonna lie, I was like falling asleep. Like it was a boring game. And it was like 10-0 at half, or like last 2 minutes in this first half.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'm good. I woke up probably mid fourth quarter and it got interesting. Then boy, Pat Mahomes, he got another ring. That's gonna be the next GOAT. I mean, he's not the GOAT right now, but that's the next GOAT.
Yeah, and that's basically what I think the NFL's in a good spot with that for the next 10 or 15 years. Let's say 10 years. Let's just say he's healthy. Again, as you said, Anna, he's going to be chasing Brady. He's got 4 more Super Bowls to go. That's a whole lot, but 3 down at 28. I think people are going to be interested. Obviously, you got the diehards, but the casual fans are going to be interested to see if he can get close to that magical number 7, which is a ridiculous number. And people think it's possible just because of his age, his ability, and he's a difference maker. So, just quick thing. What did you guys think of the halftime show? I know we talked about Rihanna last year. I enjoyed it, but let's see what you guys thought about it.
I thought it was really good, but I also saw Usher live in person in Vegas. So for me, when you have that to kind of like compare it to, then it's like that was a little snippet when I went to the 2-hour show and he was doing, very similar things. But I thought overall it was really good. I'm always just super intrigued by like how much work and effort and like stamina, people are critiquing everything, but like he was really singing. He was really skating. He's running around, all over the place. Like, it's just hard to do. Like, you have to respect the craftsmanship, even if you don't think, it was the best performance ever. I think it was definitely more than formidable and one that people would remember. So I thought he did great.
Great.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I fell asleep through it, so like I had to go back and watch it. But I thought it was good. Like it was good. I just felt like he had to play so many songs. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't really get in like the rhythm with like.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I wish he he did like 4 songs and just killed it. You know what I'm saying? Like
he did like 12.
He did 12. It was a lot, so it was like okay, you kind of get into it, and then it's like oh okay, next one.
Correct.
So that was my only thing, but I thought the performances were good. I liked the intro. I liked how he came in rollerblades and all that. I thought that was dope. But I just wish he didn't do so many songs.
Yeah, exactly. And Usher performed at a Super Bowl before. I believe it's 2011. So he's been, and he's big then, and he's even bigger now. But speaking of big, obviously, Pat Mahomes is getting to that level of elites that we talk about on this pod. And we didn't want to spend too much time about it because we've talked about him plenty. We've talked about all those GOATs we're talking about. And this best episode is about one of the GOATs of sports. Again, we talk about those guys, talk about basketball, LeBron, Magic, Kobe Bryant. And we thought of this because something came up and me for personally, and then something came up with the Lakers unveiling a statue at the Staples Center last Thursday, as we shoot this pod on the Monday night after the Super Bowl. It was against the Denver Nuggets. I'm not sure if that was a good idea, Ani and Chelsea. Like, why are you guys unveiling the statue when you're not playing very good against the best team probably in the West? So, I don't know if that was the smartest move. Maybe they thought it would inspire them, but, so he had a statue. I'll get you guys' reaction to that, and that's what this pod is mainly about. We're going to have a special guest, Gary Charles, who was part of the overall big plan that a lot of the public didn't know about when Kobe Bryant decided at some point, hey, I'm going to turn professional, regardless of his grades, regardless of his academic standing. He was a good student. He could have went to any college in the country, and he's going to go pro. in 1996 to the NBA draft out of Lower Merion High School in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. So that's what this main pod is about. We're going to get to that story later with Gary. But before we do that, Chelsea, what I know you got a few things on your mind, unrelated to all this GOAT talk in Mahomes and Kobe and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I just want to touch on women's basketball because it has been quite a, 2 weeks in the women's basketball world. There's been a lot of chatter recently around Caitlin Clark and a GOAT in her own right, Sheryl Swoopes, who was commenting on her on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, I think. So they were going back and forth. Gilbert basically asked Sheryl Swoopes what her opinion of Caitlin was, and the controversy was that Sheryl was factually incorrect with a couple of the comments that she made. She was kind of making the point that, she doesn't know about Caitlin's record because of not being a true senior in the COVID year, and also her shooting 40 times a game and stuff like that. And I will say my opinion or the whole take on the thing. The concept of what Sheryl was trying to say, I believe is accurate. The way that she said it wasn't the best. And I'm going to say, okay, Caitlin Clark, for one, she is a true senior. She is playing her 4th year in the NCAA. She's very much so about to break this record. I believe she's 9 points away. They just actually lost in Nebraska.
Right.
Unranked team. They thought she was going to break the record that game. She finished with 31. She needed 8 or 9 extra points to break it, but she wasn't able to do it. And they were upset in that game. But bottom line is Sheryl Swoopes is just trying to make the argument that as great as Caitlin is, she's going to go into the WNBA probably next year, and it's going to be an adjustment period. She's getting a lot of, hype, and deservingly so, because she's an amazing college player and she's going to be the all-time leading scorer very soon. But at the same time, history shows that you do not go into the WNBA and dominate. That does not mean she can't be good as a rookie, because I think everybody thinks she's going to be good. Indiana has the number 1 pick. That's a bottom team where she's going to be able to get her game off, get her shots off. Probably not as many as college. I think she shoots 20 times a game, probably somewhere around 15 as a rookie. She's playing with Aaliyah Boston, who's the number 1 pick last year. But history just shows that you don't go in as a guard and dominate in the WNBA. I mean, we've seen that with Kelsey Plum. We've seen that with Skylar Diggins. We've seen that with Chelsea Gray, who actually came out injured. There's always an adjustment period. And the few people that have been able to come out and actually be dominant in Candace Parker, Breanna Stewart, they were forwards. Maya Moore, you don't just come into the league and kill. So I 100% understand what Sheryl was trying to say. Obviously, it just makes it a little worse when you say some stuff that's factually incorrect, and people kind of take that as Sheryl hating. But in the same breath, she's Sheryl Swoopes. I can't hate, because if Caitlin can even sniff some of the accomplishments that Sheryl Swoopes was able to do in the WNBA, then she's going to go down as one of the greatest herself. You can't call somebody who's been there and done that a hater. I just wish that Sheryl wouldn't have spoke so much out of turn about things she wasn't quite sure about. And in her defense, she was corrected immediately on the show about the stuff that she said that was wrong. But yeah, it blew up. Those people, they had fans, Iowa fans wearing t-shirts that said, "Don't be a Sheryl." They were going in on her on Twitter. It was crazy. It was a big thing. So that was the huge blunder in women's hoops. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but I mean, Cheryl Miller is Cheryl Miller. She's a GOAT for real. I'm never going to disrespect her, even though she was wrong. But I can say that, maybe she spoke out of turn a little bit.
So, Chelsea, I have a thing. Who corrected her? Was it Lexi Brown or one of the other guys? Was it Josiah Johnson? Who said, wait a minute, you're not right?
Yeah, somebody just said, no, actually, she is a true senior. She actually is eligible for a 5th year. She can take another year and stay in school if she wants to, but there's kind of no point. So they were just making the point that her record is true. She's going to do it in 4 years. She does shoot a lot. So Sheryl said 40, which is not 40. She doesn't shoot 40 times a game. She shoots more like 20. So, the exaggeration, the, incorrect facts kind of make it look bad. But the bottom line is she's not wrong in what she's saying conceptually. Yeah. It's just hard to go into the league and dominate. So we've seen that, across the board with everybody. The greatest guards that we have in the game right now all took 2 to 3 years of an adjustment period to be the people that they are. Like Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, Skylar Diggins, like the list goes on and on. It's a hard league. So I think she was just trying to, give credit where credit is due and say, like, you're not going to come into a league of really talented women and be who you are in college.
Yeah, I don't know why she kind of received flack for that now, like the 50-year stuff and whatever. Yeah, like the inaccurate stats. I mean, yeah, of course, but like, I mean, we say that about NBA, like guys in college or guys, those one and dones or whatever. It's going to be an adjustment period, no matter if they're good. Like as good as Victor Wembanyama is, he's had to adjust to the NBA game.
Sure.
I mean, so it's like that's everybody. that is everybody. Even Shaquille O'Neal, you go back to his rookie season, like he had a hell of a season, but like he got better throughout. Like, it was a real adjustment period.
No doubt.
Just to say Caitlin Clark is going to go through that, it's not an issue. Like she may still put up pretty damn good stats, but like she's going to adjust. Like she's not going to take them and they'll be in the playoffs or be, a WNBA champion in year one. Like she's going to go through some real hard times if it's training camp, if it's preseason, in the beginning of the season, whatever. There's going to be an adjustment period. Every rookie goes through that. So to just say like she's going to come and she'll be the MVP year one, like that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, or for how some people think. Yes, she can be a generational talent, but like it's going to take time. Like all of these take time. No matter how good they are, it still takes time. It took Jordan, he put up big time numbers his rookie year. It still was an adjustment period for him because he did not know how to really win yet with that in Chicago. You know what I mean? Or be more efficient. A lot of things, just the NBA game. Same thing Caitlin Clark is going to go through in the WNBA game. So she wasn't wrong on that. I saw comments and people getting mad at her, and I'm like, dog, she's not hating. That's just reality. Like that's reality. She's not gonna come in and just have this shit figured out. Like that's wild to even think that no one ever has. So why do you think her?
And to your point, Ani, I think like Caitlin has brought so much publicity to women's basketball, women's college basketball, and I don't think that there's a player in the country that has as much motion as Caitlin Clark. Like in terms of them fans are lining up, wrapped around town, all the way down Iowa just to, basically watch this girl play. Like she's incredible. What with that being said, her fans also do not watch the WNBA in my opinion. Because if they did, they would know how good the league is and they would say, okay, she's really good, but this league is like really good too. Like it's going to be hard. Her fans are new fans. She's brought new fans and I think it's great. But I don't think a lot of her fans can name players in the WNBA, and I don't think that they know how difficult it is.
And then they need to watch that Nebraska game and think like, bro, like especially in the fourth quarter, like you don't think like you don't think in the next level she's not going to experience stuff like that, or they're going to scheme to guard her. They're not going to let her just drop 40, bro. Like.
Yeah, and everybody's bigger and more athletic and really good at basketball too. So it's like obviously the competition and the people that you're playing against, like. It kind of just goes in hand. But I think like we talk about that so much, just how the casual fan, we talk about this. They just have no idea. The casual fan does not know what it takes. And we've said the same thing about Juju. And, I've come on the pod and been vocal. And Juju, she's killing it in college. She had 51 points the other day. Freshman record. She just landed on the cover of Slam magazine. Like, with all this notoriety and stuff, I think sometimes we're just prisoners of the moment. Like you see something and you think it's really great and you're just like, wow, like this is the best thing ever. But that doesn't mean that, the next level she's going to isn't really great either. So Juju's great. Caitlin's great. I think they're both going to be more than formidable WNBA players. But, that league is hard, man. It's hard.
Juju's a one and done, though. Like, I mean, they don't have her.
Get her out.
She's a one. That's
Juju could be a one and done, but she's still going to make that adjustment. She's bigger than everybody.
For sure.
And
Ani wants her to take a pay cut. Why, Ani? Why do you want to take a pay cut?
She ain't got to. She gonna make money from endorsements anyway. She ain't gonna take no pay cut.
A couple comments I have about that is to your line of thinking, Chelsea, about the fans of Caitlin Clark, not necessarily fans of WNBA. I don't think a lot of people who comment on it or even really know that much about Sheryl Swoopes, to be honest.
No.
The way you know what I'm saying? It's not like Isaiah Thomas speaking or Magic Johnson or something. People they're not even in the tune of who he is. So I think on her point, she has to be a little bit more careful of that because she's carrying the mantle of the older girls. So, like you said, you don't want to. Again, and I think another point is, if would she speak like that, or would she be as unprepared if she came out on a television network interview compared to jumping on Gil's podcast? Like, if I was on Gil's podcast, I'd be talking shit too. You know, like me on it, you'd be talking shit. You know what I mean? Your whole demeanor would be different than if you were coming out like on a 247 podcast or
no like curse words if I was on the 247 podcast.
Yeah, or on ESPN on ESPNU or somebody interviewing you. You know what I mean? So that I think is a little bit to be said, but also like, you know, Sheryl Swoopes, it's like, again, it's a WNBA needs work. You played for the Houston Comets. They're not even around anymore. So like people got to know, like, it ain't the same as, so young fans are not going to go. They're going to say, what is she talking about? Like, she's wrong or whatever. So it's just a continuously process of learning and like keep putting the league forward. And like you said, for me, that doesn't do the overarching league any favors. Like, you know what I mean? Just you know, have your stuff in order and like talk, because everybody knows she's a bad player, but like the average Joe Q doesn't know. So they're just going to take sound bites and run with it. But that's a pretty interesting topic. You know, she was a great player. And I think there's some other like girls who built something in their college career. Like she was one who built her way that senior year at Texas Tech. Yeah. She got in the tournament. She was awesome. But all that attention came within like 4 weeks. Because I remember it. I was like, oh, that girl shows. Yeah. Oh, Texas Tech's making a run. Like, what? This girl had dropped 40. Oh, she dropped 35. Oh, they're in the Sweet 16. It happened fast. And she became popular fast. So very different than Caitlin Clark. Like I said, I haven't seen no girl on the girl side. Maybe Shamika Holtzclaw a little bit that has this type of ball. Like this girl, Caden's way bigger than any college player before. Not
boys and girls, though. Like at least this year for the boys too. There's no men's player that has this kind of motion either.
No, this girl's way bigger, way bigger. Like she's on like Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley, Christian Laettner type popularity level. You know what I mean? Like just for the popularity, not anything else. So will be interesting to watch it. What do you think? How's it like? How are they doing, Chelsea? Are they winning the Big Ten, or what are they? Or is it going to be like a crazy thing if she gets to the title game again?
I honestly cannot see them winning. She's Caitlin, so she's going to will them to some games in the tournament. But even now, like, you know, no shade, they're a little biased with the rankings and Iowa being in there. Iowa has 2 unranked losses, and they're not out of the top 5. Like LSU lost to South Carolina, and they have 1 or 2 unranked losses too. But it's like, you look in the polls and stuff, it's just kind of weird how it plays out. Like yesterday, UConn and South Carolina played. South Carolina is still number 1 team overall, undefeated. Ended up beating UConn by, I think, maybe 18 points or something. UConn was ranked number 11, and they dropped to 15. But here goes Iowa, ranked number 2, lose again to the second time to an unranked team, and they're number 5. Like, I don't understand the rankings, but I understand the motion that Caitlin has, and they want her to, you know, be around, and she will be around. She's going to get in the tournament. She's going to do Caitlin things. Is it going to be enough to win? I can't see it. I think they'd be lucky to get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're going to be pushing it. Like you said, people are going to. The announcers are going to be loving it. Well, you know, what do you guys think just about that in terms of like the coverage? Like I almost say that because I could kind of hear the announcers kind of like cheering for Pat Mahomes, honestly, like a bit. You know, I don't know if Caitlin has that. Maybe she might have that this tournament. You know, they're going to want Iowa to win in advance. Like, it's great TV, you know? So I don't know if did you guys notice any of that? Like, or do you think that's happening with Pat Mahomes, or he's just great player?
I notice that all the time. Announcers are just people. They have biases like everybody else. Like you can see when they're calling games on anybody that, you know, they're going to say certain things about one player, you know, maybe not so much about the other team. So I think it's across the board, and I think sometimes it's just an inherent thing. Like you can't really help it. So I don't hate on that though. I just, at the end of the day, you still have to play. You know, Caitlin's going to do great, like I said, but her team still has to be good enough for them to really do something. And they don't have a good team. They have her. So,
and I think, and I do see that. I think it's more like a few things. I think it's like, okay, this is Caitlin. Like, she's gonna come up, even if they're down, she's gonna explode for like 10 straight points, and it's gonna be it's gonna be a game that they're broadcasting that they can, kind of really show more emotion. Or sometimes I feel like it's like Chelsea says, they're biased, but it's also to broadcast a really good game too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if she does go crazy, if they're down, like they're trailing by 5, and she goes crazy, like that's
part of the show. Yeah, it's part of the program.
Yeah. So, but like I always hear like, I was really struggling, but we still, going to the fourth. You got Caitlin. Like, it's always something about her, regardless of where the game is. If they're up, you know what they're talking about. If they're down, you know what they're talking about. That's like, blah blah doing really good. But you got Caitlin. She's gone one for. She hasn't made her last 5 shots, but that's not going to continue like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's always that. Which, part of it that is true, but every broadcast, like every game, it's like, what I mean? Like, it's one of these.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say they did that yesterday, though. They kept saying that with Pat Mahomes, and then oh my, don't leave 2 minutes on the clock. Like, it's too much time for Pat. He's getting back on the field. Like, it's the same thing. So great players are going to get that. I mean, I don't really have a problem with it. But at the end of the day, like, show credit when credit is due. Nebraska beat them, and they lost. So credit to them for winning the game.
Ani, I got to ask you this, and then we'll move on to our main topic. She mentioned Pat Mahomes. Do you go on defense first, and then you got one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks ever, so he's going to be playing with 4 downs because he has to play with 4 downs if you score? Or do you go on offense first, and try to score like they did, and then you give them, because you want to go on offense first because in case it's a tie, you get the 3rd possession, so you get 2 offensive possessions? Or would you go the other way like the Niners did? What would you do there?
Oh, I go on offense, but it's touchdown or bust. Because I'm not Pat doesn't really phased by pressure, but I gotta put as much pressure as possible. So that means that I gotta get a touchdown, which means he has to get a touchdown.
Correct.
A field goal to him is like shit.
Was nothing. I knew the game was over then. You conceded the game by kicking the field goal.
Right. Like, you gotta get a touchdown. If you're gonna do that, you gotta get a touchdown. You give him the ball first, dog, he not thinking about no field goal. Like,
no,
but you got to put the pressure on him that he has to get it in order to win.
Correct. He had no pressure. Yeah,
he had no pressure.
He got into field goal range so fast. I was like, you guys just conceded that. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? So a few mistakes. The biggest problems the Niners had was the 2 special teams cues. When it was, instead of going to 2016 and making them score a touchdown, they muffed that extra point, so they tied it 19-19. And then the punt return that hit the up man and the guy lost it. That was a huge play. So congrats to the Chiefs as we move forward. We're going to talk about Kobe Bryant. Real quick, I just, for this statue ceremony, I know there's been a few, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic, a few other non-Lakers have a statue out there, Oscar De La Hoya. But for this one, I didn't see the fanfare. Maybe I missed it a little bit. Maybe it's just a busy time of the year. Maybe the Lakers didn't play good. I don't know. It wasn't open to the public on that Thursday night. What was your guys' quick reaction to Kobe Bryant getting a statue? Well-deserved in front of the crypto.com arena.
Definitely deserved. I saw some clips on social media. I guess they gave out jerseys to everybody that was in attendance. Tried to kind of make it a big deal. But I saw a lot of negative comments too, just about the statue itself. Like, wow, who is that person in the statue? Like, I guess Kobe picked the pose and, all that's great. But I think I was hoping for just a better statue in general. I think Kobe at least deserves that. And in that moment, I felt like the statue kind of took away because people were so much talking about what it looked like as opposed to, this being more celebratory. I don't know. Yeah, that was my vibe.
Yeah, I thought the statue, the pose wasn't awful, but the execution was bad in my opinion. Like that, in my opinion, obviously he deserves a statue. I think they're going to make 3 statues, right?
I mean, I guess 1 out of 3's got to be good, right?
Like you got to get the next 2 right. Like 2 out of 3. Like come on, it's Kobe, bro. Like you got to get 2 out of 3 right. Like that. Like that one was bad. Executed. It wasn't executed well. Get these next 2 right. That's all I gotta say about it. Like that was not executed well at all, in my opinion. Like I was like, that's not Kobe. Like who's that? Like I was like, who is that?
Well, thank God for the Lakers fans. We have all those beautiful murals around town, and you can, there's a lot of shrines to him, obviously all over. One of the most, maybe the most popular Laker era. I'd probably say he is more popular than Magic now, because as time's gone by, he's just so popular and people like him. But similar to Sheryl Swoopes and some of the other things you talk about, the fans don't know the backstory. So we have a special guest, Gary Charles, longtime AAU coach, with the New York / Long Island Panthers, and he's going to give the backdrop of his story. And this is a story about Kobe hatching the plan with his family to go from high school to the pros. So just some backdrop. Kobe Bryant played for Sam Rhimes AAU. He was an Adidas kid, quote unquote, at the time. And again, that's how we labeled him. You're a Nike kid going to Nike camp. You're an Adidas kid. You go to ABCD camp. Again, he lived in Italy, so he didn't grow up in that, glued to that kind of association. But he went to the ABCD camp twice, and some of the other people we're talking about, in far as that, Lamar Odom, who played for Gary Charles on that team, was kind of 1 year behind. Kobe had a bigger name. And Kobe didn't have that, oh my God, 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade, he's the best player all the way up. And that's kind of part of the story. Right. And we wanted to get Gary Charles on. We're glad he did. He gave a lengthy talking about, he wanted to talk about this. And it's a great, fascinating story. So let's go to Gary Charles now and give the interview him about the, Kobe to the pros. Now I'd like to welcome to the In the Paint podcast, episode 180, all about Kobe Bryant, our special guest, who's going to talk to us as Kobe's just recently got his statue unveiled in front of the Crypto Center in LA. Obviously, he's a legend. He helped build that place. Gary Charles, longtime travel ball coach and event operator, who has a close relationship at the time as Kobe was coming up in the grassroots ranks with Kobe and his father. So thank you, Gary, for coming on the show.
Ronnie, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you giving the fans and some people some insight. Obviously, Kobe's one of the most popular players ever, and it's now been 4 years since he's been gone tragically, and he got his statue in Los Angeles. So wanted to talk about his connection to LA a little bit and how that could have changed. And, we talk about decisions in life, how easily things could take a different route. So obviously, Kobe was a good high school player, a great high school player, but he wasn't the guy who started off number 1 in his class or was a can't miss prospect from 8th or 9th grade, like some of the guys we've seen. So obviously he eventually went to Sonny Vaccaro's ABCD camp, but you had some intervention in that. So talk a little bit how you connected with his father, Joe Bryant, and when did he introduce you to Kobe?
Yes, life is interesting, right? Because there's a lot of things people don't know, and what people don't understand is back then, there weren't the scouting services, as many magazines. There wasn't any cell phones. I mean, it was just a whole different world.
Sure.
Things were about word of mouth. Now, in this particular case, Joe Bryant at the time was the assistant coach at LaSalle University. I'm not even sure most people even knew that. Yeah. And he was recruiting one of my guys at the time, this young man named Eddie Corbett.
Okay.
And so he would follow us around to the tournaments. But here's the thing. Because Kobe also was playing in the same tournament, and because he was a father, he was allowed to be there at these events, even though they weren't live. But he was a dad, so he had the best of both worlds. So he was able to continue to recruit, so to speak, and watch his son and everything else. So as he was recruiting my guy, we just kept getting closer and closer. We just bonded. We just started talking about different things. And then one day he mentioned his son. Yeah. And I'd already seen his son a little bit because we were in the same event. And he said, "Hey, Gary, can you help me?" I said, "Help you what?" And he said, "Can you get my son into ABCD camp?" Yeah. And I watched the son again. And I said, "Yeah, he's good enough to be in the camp."
No doubt.
So I said, let me reach out to Sonny. And back then, you had to be careful because when you made the phone call, if the person wasn't home, you didn't get them. That's just the way it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Sonny though was one of those guys who his office was his daggone phone. Okay, so he was always near it. So when I called him and I said, Sonny, I got a young man. I think he was in the camp. And he said, who? And I said, his name is Kobe Bryant. He thought about it, Kobe. Jelly Bean son?
Yeah. That's the first thing he screwed out. Yeah.
What? Yeah. Jelly Bean played in my first Dapper Dan game.
Yeah.
MVP. I said, well, Sonny, his kid is good. He said, absolutely. So we sent out the invite, and that's how Kobe ended up coming to ABCD camp.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a connection. Basketball is all about connections. Obviously, Jelly Bean played in the 1972 game, and obviously this is many years later. So this is 1994. He's a rising junior, and he goes to the camp, and I'm sure he does good. Like our guy Clark Francis ranked him 18th in the camp. Maybe that's a pretty fair assessment. Not too bad. But something happened at the end of the camp where Sonny told me, and he was a guest on this pod previously when Kobe had unfortunately passed. He said, Mr. Vaquero, thank you for inviting me. But next year when I come back, I'm going to be the best player in this camp. So describe what type of prospect he was that first year.
What everyone has to understand is that at that time, we invited the top 200, players from across the country.
Sure.
Okay? So Kobe went up against a lot of good ball players. Kobe did nothing wrong. 18 was really pretty good.
Yeah, pretty fair and good. Yeah.
But for Kobe, he wanted more.
Sure.
So Kobe was a solid player that you could see was going to get better. You could see the athleticism. You could just see the feel for the game. You could also see, I felt, he came from someone that played before. Like he just had it. That's what I was seeing. And that he just needed time. So that's what I left with. And the other thing is, obviously, when you make invites for certain players, you hope they don't come out there and embarrass you. Okay. So Kobe did none of that. So I laughed when he said that to Sonny. I looked at Sonny and said, the kid was pretty damn good. Okay. So I don't know what he's talking about. And he was a sophomore. Well, why is he junior? At the time.
No doubt. Yeah, that makes sense. So he had some confidence to him. And obviously, Sonny at the time is leading Adidas's grassroots charge. And he's looking for the next great pitchman, just like any shoe company would be. So when did you tell Sonny, or when did that come along? Like, hey, he may be the one to go after in terms of, eventually being an endorser for the company.
Kobe was always, in back of my mind. I think everyone needs to understand the backstory to that was that when I first joined Sonny, one of the things that he said to me, he said, Gary, we need to start from the grassroots level. I'm going to need your help to try to find the next one that we can get, all right, without Nike even knowing, so to speak. But if we do it from the grassroots level and we build a relationship, then maybe we'll get a chance. Okay, big statement. So now fast forward, and at that time, the big uproar was Felipe Lopez, that he was going to be the guy. Okay, and now all of a sudden, Felipe is playing for St. John, where some of the warts, so to speak, is coming out, and he's playing great. But the more you play, the more people start to pick your game, so to speak. But it also gave me a chance to see Kobe more, and then the spring started. People used to call it summer basketball, but not summer basketball. We really start playing in March, at the end of March, April.
Yeah.
We're playing. So that's what we call it, grassroots basketball. Okay. And I remember, I want to say that June, right before ABCD camp. Again, I'm in a tournament in South Jersey. It was called War in the Woods, because you actually played through the woods outside, on courts.
Yeah.
And this guy, he just had like miles of back a yard, and had one court this way, then had two courts way the other way, and everything else, right? And I remember standing there with Joe. We won our game. So this is when I think Lamar was a young guy. We had other guys, Malik Allen, like we were loaded. So we had already won our game.
Yeah.
Joe asked me, come on over and watch. And I'm standing there and I'm watching. Kobe comes down. He hits a jump shot.
Yeah.
And I remember Joe hits me in the rib. You see that jump shot? Yeah, I saw the jump shot.
Yeah.
Kobe comes back down. It does like a windmill. Boom. And Joe again hits me in the rib. Boom. You see that dunk? And I'm like, yeah, man, stop hitting me in my rib.
Yeah.
Kobe comes. He says something. You see that dunk? Because at this point, he wanted to make an impression on me. Okay.
Sure.
And it was just Kobe being Kobe. And I said, when he came back and said that, I said to myself, that's the kid. Now, understand, as I was watching all of this, I looked way down the yard somewhere else. And the reason I was looking somewhere else because his mother was there, sister was there, the whole family was there, and they were playing miniature golf. Okay. Now, why was that important to me? Because I felt that if you were going to make it and be that person, you had to have backup.
Yeah.
You had to have a solid family. You had to have the game and everything else. Now, so I was thinking Joe played in the NBA, understood the game. Now, his son had some of the same attributes, spoke well.
Yeah.
Very sharp young man, very athletic. And I'm looking at the family. The family's always going to be with them. And in my mind, that's the one. So now I called Sonny and said, Sonny, I found the guy. He said, yeah, I know. It's going to be Felipe. Said,
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
So, and you got to understand now, if you remember, that was a whole lot of pressure at that time. It's Felipe. It's
Felipe. Yeah.
And so for me to come out and say that, and Felipe was my guy.
Sure.
And Felipe at that time at St. John was the roommate of one of my former players, Xander Hamilton. They were roommates. So I got to see it a lot. I used to go to the games. I used to go to the room. But it was interesting. Felipe was a happy-go-lucky kid.
Yes.
Win or lose, he was happy. The whole, I felt like all of South Bronx was coming into his room. They were having a good time. And I observed all of that. And I said, man, this kid needs tough love. Let him know some things. Kobe was getting that from his family. All right?
Different perspective, yeah.
Different perspective. And I said to Sonny, no, it's this young man.
Interesting.
Sonny, to his credit, he said, do you believe it? You bet everything on there. I said, well, I'm not going to bet my life now. And I said, but that's the one I'm going with.
Yeah.
Okay. And we started the process.
And as you say, they're hatching that plan. Okay, so now Jesus decides to make a full court press on Kobe. What was the key to getting that started?
The key to getting it started was a couple of things.
Yeah.
One, Joe and I had talked.
Yeah.
And Joe said to me, Kobe was very interested in coming out of high school. So that was a key.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening is that there are kids who might have the talent to come out, but are they mentally prepared?
Yeah.
The difference. Lamar Odom could have left out of high school, but he wasn't mentally prepared to do that.
Okay.
Kobe had all of that, and he wanted to do it. So the first thing was that the parents were behind it and wanted it, and Kobe wanted it. So that was step one.
Yeah.
Step two was couldn't let the world know, because now if Nike knew, Nike was going to make a full court press.
Correct.
And again, I want to remind the audience, it's not like it is now where the whole world saw you.
Yeah.
It didn't happen like that. Okay. So it was almost like a bubble, so to speak. Okay.
Sure.
And so we hatched our plan in that here's what we're going to tell people. So Sonny moved to New York for like 3 or 4 months. I don't know if he mentioned that to you with that. And people thought he moved out for a couple of reasons. One was because of Felipe, getting to St. John, Lamar Odom, who was coming and now was getting some buzz. All right. And we had to, they knew he had to go get someone. All right. And that he was better off this way because Kerry Kittle also played for Villanova. And he was someone we were looking at, because the third person that a lot of times people don't talk about is Thad Fouché. Okay. It was Sonny and I and Thad Fouché. Thad currently works for Wasserman, is one of the top agents in the business. All right. It was the three of us at the time, and Thad was coaching the what was it? New Orleans, the New Orleans Jazz. New Orleans Jazz.
Yeah.
He had Kerry Kittle had played for him.
Yes.
Yeah, also. So New Orleans Jazz were on the top.
Yeah, they had Jonathan Bender and a few other good young
players. Chris Duan. So he had some players. Lester Earl.
Yes.
At the time. So anyway, so it was the three of us. But I was the guy always talking to Joe.
Yes.
So sometimes I went to his house. Sometimes he drove down to my house because we need to have longer conversations. Said, all right, let's have a meeting. And it's amazing that that's what you had to do. You had to drive to meet because we didn't want anyone to know. So we would drive there or drive there. And then sometime Sunday night that would drive to his house. But what we would do is we would go to a Villanova game.
Okay.
Go watch Kerry Kittle. So again, everyone thought we were recruiting Kerry Kittle. Meanwhile, Kobe lived 5 minutes away. Game is over. We went to Kobe's house to continue to keep hatching our plan, how we were going to make this work. Because the biggest concern that the Bryant family had was, what happened if this fails? See, it's easy for people to think like, oh, come on. It just no.
Yeah.
We're dealing with at that time with a 16-year-old kid before he even turned 17. Yeah, what happened if this fails? What about if we guarantee you a contract? Y'all can do that? We'll guarantee you some money. Now it made it a lot easier and more comfortable for them to say, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
So that was the phase of the whole thing of making this thing happen.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. Some kind of reassurance guaranteed. And I want to give the people letting know Kobe was a rising senior or coming into a senior. So the public, me being in LA, we didn't know Kobe was going to declare for the draft till much later. So I want people to know that are young or they're big Kobe fans. It's not like he was making his intentions known. People thought he may go to LaSalle, maybe go to Duke, maybe go to, he was on the radar just like every other kid was, to his top 3, his top 5. So I want people to understand that that's just behind the scenes between you 3 and the family.
That's correct. And look, here's the other thing. Kobe wanted to go to Duke.
Yeah.
At that time.
And you did mention that. Yeah.
But Dad didn't want him to go to Duke. The dad is still LaSalle.
Yeah.
At the time. And Joe and I always make a joke out of it. Joe said, man, he's going to go to Duke and Coach K's going to get all the credit of everything I did. And we used to laugh about that. I said,
sure.
No, I said, don't worry about that. He's not going anywhere. Okay. He's going straight to the league. So that was always the motivation. And obviously he comes in and he's tearing it up.
Yeah.
At ABCD. Kobe was the type of young man that he would beat his mama one-on-one. Okay.
Yeah.
He had it. And that was just as important in me making that decision that this was the guy. He was just fierce. He just wanted to beat anyone that was coming near him. And that was going to be important.
Got you. So his mentality, his game, the whole package. So
the whole package. I could just see it, while he was so young. I just, being from New York, you see a lot of guys, right? We see a whole lot of people. But when I saw this young man, I was like, wow, this kid's pretty good. And what's crazy is that Kobe, his backcourt mate was Rip Hamilton. That was their backcourt, for San Martin. And Richard Hamilton. People weren't paying that much attention, but at ABCD now, he started to take off, but no one still thought he was going out for the NBA. That wasn't a thought.
Makes sense. So, we move forward. Now he's at ABCD the second year. This is summer of 95. He's the best player. Now he's showing that he might be the best player in the country. He's the top ranked player at the camp. And now he's having a great senior year. But the plan was to keep him going under wraps. Now tell us a little bit again. Now he's becoming at this time he's becoming a pretty well-known commodity in the basketball community. And there's a couple things that could have happened that could have foiled your guys, ruined your guys' plans. Were there any close calls? Tell us about the close calls, and because I want to give my end of the story where people can talk about how things can just happen, and it worked out obviously at the end for the Lakers and Kobe Bryant. But let's talk about a few things that could have foiled that.
Life can change, in an instant.
Sure.
Based on different situation. I believe you and I we started talking about Tim Thomas.
Yes.
At the time. Tim Thomas, going into ABCD was ranked as the #1 player in the country. Tim was really, really good. 6'8" wing, and could do it all. He was special. His motor, though, wasn't always going.
Okay.
All right, and I have to admit to you, that was part of my concern for regard Tim. Now, Tim though was being coached at the time by a close friend of mine, Jimmy Salmon, who at the time they were the TNT Players, I believe was the name of the program at the time. And him and I never talked about what could have happened, but I guess subsequently I found out, I heard that Tim thought about coming out.
Yes.
Now, if Tim would have came out, and because people didn't know Kobe as well as they knew Tim,
yes,
it could have easily been that Tim could have gotten drafted before Kobe because Tim was 6'8".
Yes.
So there's a story, true story, that we announced Kobe up, I want to say it was like beginning of April, that he's coming out. And we do a press conference in New York, downtown at Soho. And we were staying at the Riga Royale Hotel. I remember that. And at some point, Kobe and I were bored. We're downstairs. He said, "Coach, let's go take a walk. Do you mind?" I said, "Joe, you good with it?" Joe said, "Yeah, go ahead." So Kobe and I were walking down 42nd. And a couple of things. One, I remember some young people yelling out, "That's Kobe, that's Kobe." So Kobe was smiling like all proud. And somebody said, "How you know who that is?" They said, "Oh, he took Brandy to the farm." And I busted out laughing because they knew Kobe because of Brandy. He was that guy.
Not because they saw him at ABCD or saw him play. Yeah, they knew him through Brandy.
They knew him through Brandy. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, I'm going to show him one day. I'm going to show him." And I'm still laughing. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, "Don't worry, Kobe. Everybody's going to know who you are at some point." But as we were walking, he said, "Mr. Charles." And he tapped me twice because my mom was somewhere else because we were walking by 40 seconds. And I'm looking, what's going on. And I said, "What's up, Cole?" He said to me, "Where do you think I'm going to go? Who do you think is going to go before me? Where do you see me going?"
Yeah.
And I said to him, "Kobe, I think there are 2 players potentially that could go before you that play your position." He said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Well, Antoine Walker." Yeah, it had to be in the middle of April because they won the championship.
They had already won the championship.
Right. Yeah. So after that, I said, "Well, he's 6'8", just won the national championship. I think he's the top 5 players. He's gonna go there. Yeah. I think he's gonna go before you." He said, "Well, who's the other guy?" I said, "Potentially Kerry Kittle could go before you because I think Kerry's a senior. He's been around longer. People know who he is, Villanova, and obviously Kobe knew that. Okay, and he just nodded his head, for a while. And I'm going to come back and answer why things would have changed. But what I want people to know was, a couple minutes later, he tapped me on my shoulder. And I almost forgot we were walking together.
Yeah.
And I said, "Kobe, what's up?" He said, "Mr. J." He stopped me. He said, "Mr. Charles, Antoine Walker's not better than me." And I'm looking at this 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Coming out of high school, who is telling me this former McDonald's All-American, this All-American in college, who just won the national championship, is not better than him. And again, I want everyone to keep in mind, this isn't a Kobe that you know now. This was a 17-year-old kid who was just getting going, who is telling me this. So if I ever had any doubts that he was the guy, it was erased at that point. Okay? He felt that he was going to be that guy. He had that much confidence. But the reason things could have changed is that if Timmy would have came out, it's a possibility Tim would have been the 3rd person wing to go before Kobe.
Gotcha.
That's why life is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's brought up. Obviously, we wanted to talk about this because of the statue and people are celebrating Kobe a little bit, but also because of Tim's story. He came out a podcast. He thought he might have gone to Charlotte. And again, if that goes to Charlotte, that goes to my next question. Was there any other plan there, or were you guys just, kind of banking on Charlotte taking them where they did?
No, yeah. There was a plan. We had gotten word that because of Kobe's workout, that Jerry West really wanted Kobe. We knew that. And Aunt Tellum called me and said, "Hey, Dad, you think Kobe and the family would want to go to the Lakers?" So I dropped the phone and busted out laughing and picked it back up. And I was like, "What are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's the Lakers."
It's the Lakers.
I said, "I'll call them, but I don't think that's an issue." And I'm still laughing, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I called Sonny. Sonny knew because on that call, Sonny told him to call me, and I called Joe, and Joe was pumped up. Kobe was pumped up because this was late. Yeah, he had worked out for them, and now it was. And I said, "On, but how's that going to happen?" Because we knew where the Lakers were at the time. They weren't
in the standings,
you know. So, but we had an idea of, like I said, some of the guys that would more than likely go before him.
Yes.
But now we had to get to Czar, but we were worried about the Nets. It was John Calipari. You guys don't know this, but John Calipari was the coach of the Nets his first year. He's a rookie, the rookie coach. And John now had made some overture about he might want Kobe instead of Gary Kittle. So now it's like, oh my God, we can't let this happen. Okay? Can't let this happen. We need him with Charlotte because we knew that the Lakers now had a trade in place. So the Lakers basically said, okay, we're going to put a trade in place, so Charlotte could take him for us.
Yes.
And then now we do the trade. And the trade was going to be Vlade Divac to go to Charlotte and Kobe to the Lakers. That was the game plan. Now it's up to us to try to figure this out. So Mastermind, Mr. Sonny Vaccaro, said, we got to find a way to thwart this. And this is when Sonny, along with Joe, we all talked about it, came with the master plan. We all had to plan that. Well, we got to make it seem that Kobe doesn't want to have anything to do with the Nets. He doesn't want to be anywhere near his family in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And that if you took him, he might go and play in Italy for a year. Okay. And that all played a part in it because his dad played in Italy and Kobe grew up in Italy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a crazy statement. It was still maybe for a kid from America that might seem crazy, but not for Kobe.
No.
He spoke the language. He loved it. He missed it and everything else. And that's what we put out there. He was not getting along with his parents. And if you took him, we're not telling you he's going to, but there's that chance. Okay.
Interesting.
Yep.
So you guys ran a little interference and it worked out. Tim stayed in school.
Yeah,
he went to Villanova for 1 year. Then he went higher like he wanted to in the draft, as he mentioned recently. So all those things kind of worked out. Now, from my perspective, again, like I said, as that McDonald's game comes now Kobe went to beach ball. He played really well at the beach ball. But again, like you said, there wasn't the instant video. There wasn't TV, that kind of thing. And it wasn't a big media market. Now, from our end of the place at the time, Tim Thomas was a big name. Like you said, Felipe in college. But Shea Cotton was probably as big as them, Lamar, and all of them. So we got to bring in the Shea Cotton angle because that's, again, how things work out sometimes. And that's the whole point of this podcast. Kobe you guys are hatching this plan for him to go to the Lakers, but it could have been foiled. And maybe, I want to get your opinion. Event operator Dino Stragonis was going to bring Kobe Bryant, because he knew he was the number one player, to play Shea Cotton. Now, this is in LA, likely at Poly Pavilion in January, before he announces. So, in our eyes, from the eyes of fans, Shea Cotton was it. He was as big as any Laker. Remember, Shaq and Kobe are not on the Lakers yet. They got Eldon Campbell. They got Eddie Jones. They got Cedric Ceballos. Shea Cotton is bigger than those guys to us in our mind. Shea's the man. At that time, it's like, you got to measure yourself against him. So we're thinking in our mind, and I thought about this recently, if Kobe goes out there and busts Shea for whatever reason, or has a great game, or both of them have a great game, and it's in a media market, what does that do to your guys' plans?
He takes off. So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm always a glass half full type of guy. Always have been. And it would have been like, oh man, you didn't make the Lakers, but you know what? You're going number 5. I mean, hey, that would have been the attitude.
You guys would have had to swing it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing that you said. Think about what you said.
Yeah.
So obviously we knew about Kobe, we knew about Lamar, because Lamar was playing for me, right? He was my next one. And Felipe, we on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a little bit about Shea Cotton, but I'm not hearing it as loud because again, there's not the media attention as it is now. There's not as many magazines, there's not the videos, none of that. And I heard a little buzz about him, and it's funny because I think I might have heard it through one of the players, college players who worked at ABCD camp.
Okay.
Who knew about Shea. And when they looked at players at the camp, they would say, yeah, but you didn't see Shea Cotton. Because Shea Cotton went to the Nike camp.
Correct.
So we hadn't seen him. So we don't know about Shea like that. Now I found out he was a bad man eventually because we played him. But at that time, we don't know. So now if he goes out there and him and Kobe duel, and now Kobe outplays him, now you have the East Coast and the West Coast talking about Kobe. Things change because now the scouts will start to hear it a little bit more because people are going to start to call them. Because back then it was word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
So you pick up the phone and you call someone you knew from the NBA or whatever, and they go, "Really? Let me go check it out." And there were certain rules in place where you just couldn't just see a high school kid or certain thing. So things would have been kind of like different. Now, some of the scouts also knew Kobe from ABCD because they worked ABCD. So, and a lot of the time the coaches reported to me, okay, and I would tell them, okay, you're going to work with this team, you work with that team. So they got to see Kobe play. They knew he was good. Okay. I don't think they realized at that time how good, because they didn't get to really talk to Kobe the way I talk to Kobe, the way they're confident. And I tell people he wasn't being cocky. It was confident. He was just that confident. Okay. So if he goes out there and plays against Shea, as I said, who knows what happened? Who knows how things get changed? Because you guys are going to blow it up on your end.
Yeah, the LA media is going to blow it up. People know Shea, how big Shea is at that time. Again, you got to take yourself back to that time. And again, he was the guy that people were measuring themselves against, even in higher classes, because he's with Lamar in the 97 class, but the guys in the 95 and the 96 class were measuring themselves a little bit against Shea.
I tell people this. Yeah. Carl Hobbs and I recently talked about that. Carl Hobbs, who's currently assistant coach at Georgia Tech.
Yes.
At that time, he was at UConn. So he was recruiting Lamar and some other people. And we were out there in LA at the Izzy Washington summer tournament.
Slam and Jam. Yep.
Okay, Slam and Jam. Exactly. And now we're playing. I guess we're playing them in the semi.
Okay.
Shea Cotton's team. What was it? Southern Cal?
Southern Cal, also.
Yep. Yep. You know, Kenny Bruner's on that team. And
it might have been Values for a Better America at that time, or had under a different name, but it was the SoCal All-Stars.
No, it was SoCal. They were called SoCal at the time. But anyway, and he made a move, Shea. Made a move on the baseline. And we had a young man, 7-footer, named Kareem Shabazz, who ended up going to Florida State. Then he went to Providence. But anyway, 7 feet, raised his hand on the baseline. And in my mind as a coach, I'm thinking, yeah, we got you. He went under. He went up. He came around under Kareem Shabazz's arm, seriously, and went back up and dunked. I had never seen anything like that in my life, and I was like, "Oh my God!" That's when I realized how good this young man was. I was like, "Oh Lord, this is gonna be a long day." Okay, now we came back and won the game, but Shea, for the audience who don't know, was that dude.
Yeah. Oh no, no doubt, and that's how the life works. You know, that game falls apart, doesn't fall through. Lower Merion's a good team, but they're not the number one team in the country, anything like that. No. So that worked out for you guys. You know,
I understand it. So what happened with that one anyway? How come Dino didn't make it happen?
I think it might have been a case where the school, you know, keeps calling, and then they have, you know, certain dates they can fall, and they have maybe some travel restrictions, and they might have because they had already committed to the beach ball. So I think it just didn't work. Their travel didn't work out, and sometimes that happens.
You know what I mean? Us, of course, it worked out because think about it, right? It's just like sometimes the NBA draft or a college kid, college school is recruiting a kid. They don't want too many people to see the kid because then other people start to recruit him. Correct. So for Kobe, we didn't want to alert Nike. I want you to understand that. It was more Nike. We didn't want Phil Knight or whoever he had to be alerted to what was going on. Here's another key thing. Okay. Audience, I want you to understand. Nike did not have a grassroots program at the time. They weren't sponsoring teams like that at the time. While kids might be going to Nike camp, they didn't have a program. Whereas obviously with Sonny and Adidas, we had grassroots teams.
You guys had sponsored grassroots teams.
We had sponsored, grassroots teams. So we were playing against each other, so on. Nike didn't really have a circuit like that. It wasn't, like that. It wasn't until after Kobe.
Correct. After Kobe signed.
Okay.
That makes sense. So that, him being where he was, you guys have drafting that plan, and then it all works out. He's National Player of the Year. He gets all the accolades, plays in the round ball, plays in McDonald's, goes on to the draft. What did you guys say, like, at that day of the draft, like, as to closing, and we let you go? But what did you guys say when he heard his name called and he went up there as the pick for Charlotte?
Kobe is something else, because Kobe kept saying, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter where I go. I'm going to be, that guy. And I think by that time, whether it happened, we knew it was going to happen, about Shaq was going to be there. It didn't matter to Kobe. Well, I'm still going to be better than everyone. That was just Kobe. And we would laugh like, okay, now you're better than Shaq, huh? And we would always joke. And I remember the night before, I was still young enough that I wanted to go hang out. Okay, I remember it was the night before the draft. I'm going to hang out. We were in Jersey at the time, and he was like, come on, let me go. Yo, Kobe, you're 17 years old, okay? Keep your buddy here in the room. But come on, Kobe, stay in here. Think about, what you're going to be. He said, I'm good. I know I'm going to be good. That was his mindset. He's going to be all right. Now, what did we really know? We knew we put the plan in place. But John Calipari was not telling us whether he was going to take him or not. We had no idea. But we also knew our talent is one of the top agents in the business if he was in the top at the top. So we knew that we had an A team. Sonny, myself, Joe Bryant, Kobe. Like, we were feeling good.
You guys
we're going to be all right. We just felt that, and this was the other thing from Adidas standpoint, him going to the Lakers would only help. Okay, and I know a lot of people don't even know that. Kobe's first shoe deal was with Adidas. Well, that was the whole idea of doing this, was to get him to Adidas. That's where we was at. Okay, so now the next day come. So now we're there. All right, and boom, names are being called because obviously you look back at people. People could easily say, "How was it Kobe number one? Why was he number two?"
No, that's not.
That was coming out of high school, y'all. It wasn't happening like that back then.
No. Okay? And like we said, Tim Thomas, some argue, could be just as talented. It was a pretty good draft. He wasn't looked at, again, as the Kevin Garnett, Moses Malone. Oh my God. To Jerry West's credit, he saw something, or he saw enough to, you got to give him credit, even at 9, as people said, oh, he went too low. No, he didn't. That's just how it was then. It wasn't an, oh my God, Lou Alcindor or Moses Malone type of thing.
And remember now, everyone.
Yeah.
Certain schools at the time, they were picking based on needs.
Yeah.
So you needed a point guard, you were taking a point guard. You needed a power forward, you were taking a power forward. You needed a center, that's what you were going to do.
Sure.
And we had done our research based on the team that were the way they were going.
Yeah.
We knew that it was Twan. I forget what was it, Boston he went to? That we knew Boston was going to take a win based on everything we had heard. And we knew the Nets wanted a win.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it was a matter of doing a deal with Charlotte just to take that. So we knew that. It was just a matter of who were they going to take. Twan, we knew. Like, we just knew he was going to be the guy. So boom.
He was going to go first. Yeah.
He was going to go first.
Yeah.
So now the issue was, and here's the other thing back then, okay? And I say this all the time, right? They knew they would get no flack from anyone in the country if they take Antoine. He was a safe bet. Everyone's going, oh, yeah, of course, you got to take Twan.
That's a solid good pick.
Yeah. Solid good pick, because sometimes now people get that pressure. And because everyone knows this is the guy, you pick that guy that way, you're good. So that was a solid, good pick. Twan goes, okay? Now it was the Nets. John Calipari wanted to make a splash. John was now realizing Kobe's pretty damn good. And he had seen him while he was on the college scene. So he knew. But now it was, I am a rookie coach.
Yeah.
Can I stake my livelihood on this high school kid? Because if it doesn't work out, I'm getting blasted.
In the New York market. Yeah.
In the New York market everywhere. Am I prepared to start my career this way? Could I afford to do this? Kerry Kittle was another safe pick.
Safe.
Everyone on the East Coast that seen him with Villanova knew what he could do. And because, again, most of the world didn't know who Kobe Bryant is. Yeah. So to the average fan, we got Kerry Kittle, the Nets. We got a great pick.
Pretty good pick.
Yeah. Pretty good pick. Jerry West, though, was the dude.
Yeah, he's thinking way ahead.
Whatever at that time. And he's seen enough of Kobe like, man, and I'm getting Shaq. So I'm already wowing the world because I got Shaq. No one's got to talk about Kobe because I got Shaq.
Yeah.
Okay? No one's going to say whatever. I got Shaq. Okay? I got Shaq. What you got to say? So I could take the chance on this young man. And
he had the leverage.
Well,
yeah.
Oof. Well, you know what? He took that chance. He believed in it. And boom. And Kobe exceeded total expectation, including mine. Like, wow. I really knew he was going to be good. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he was like going to be an all-time top 5, top 10, top player. But what I knew was that because of his makeup, he was going to be a great ball player. Because I knew the family was going to move with him wherever he went. It wasn't like he was going to be by himself. See, all those things, Ronnie, played a part. Now, I worked on Wall Street at that time. Okay. And I knew I was one of the few blacks who worked in the area. And I watched the way they watched you, everything. I always had to be better than. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here it is. Years later, we still had to be better than, Ronnie. Okay. So at the time, it was even more. So I knew that pressure was going to be on Kobe, and he had to have back. And I knew the parents was going to be there for him every single step of the way. And that kid was so confident. That's the guy.
Yeah.
That's why I believe that. That's the guy. And it just happened to be Jerry West said, I'm going to take him. Dude, we needed that. Because he could have went somewhere else. Somebody else might have been treating him a certain way, whatever.
Sure.
Don't work out. But he had a couple of decent guys to where he didn't have to show it right away. So, and then Shaq was like, hey, young fella, take your time. I got this. This is my team. Okay.
That worked for him in his favor. Yeah, no doubt. And everything seemed to fall the way it's supposed to. The cookie crumbles the way it's supposed to. Tim Thomas stays. Calipari goes safe. Kobe doesn't come to LA. The prom is late enough in the game. The good thing the prom is not in March or something earlier. It all worked out. So, Gary, thank you for that. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate you going on that. It's a great story for fans to get a little insight on Kobe and realize what he was like and just how sometimes the breaks work. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wow, that was a great interview. I have 2 takeaways. Takeaway 1 is that boy Gary, casket sharp, man. He was super clean. He came ready for the interview. He's a real OG. It made me respect him even more because I just look at him and look how sharp he looked, and that was awesome. So, secondly, I really liked how Gary just spoke about his personal moments with Kobe and just the mentality. I think that's the biggest thing. I think Kobe Bryant has really just shaped his career off of the Mamba mentality. And it seems that he had this mentality ever since he was a kid, like dating back to saying, oh, I know I'm better than him, or you get me here and I'm going to perform. I'm going to do my thing. So, I think that when you have that type of drive and that will, like, you can't help but be successful. And that's kind of, how Kobe is who he is. Secondly, I thought a lot about just how much time Gary and Joe Bryant put into making sure Kobe was going to be in a situation where he can thrive. And I think that us talking about high school players all the time, seeing these kids going to the draft, doing their thing, the handler and the people around you are so important because those are the ones that are going to support you, throughout the journey. And I just look at, the people that Kobe had around him, like he was going to be successful because he had a strong backing and people that were always trying to put him in the best situations to thrive. And, Gary said, hey, I wouldn't bet my life that, this kid was going to end up being who he was. But he felt super confident that he was going to be successful just because he knew him and he knew his family and he knew his background and he knew a lot of stuff that, maybe everybody else didn't know. But when people started to get to know that stuff about Kobe and he was put in those positions, he was awesome. So that was just, for me, my biggest takeaways. And I just really enjoyed hearing that story. What do you think, Ani?
Yeah, I thought the interview was really good. Yeah, Gary was being Gary, like the top hat and everything. Yeah, that's Gary. No, it was interesting just to listen kind of how Kobe mindset, even when he was young. I know there was the talk where they're in New York, I believe, right? Yeah. And they're just walking around. And Kobe's like, who's going to get drafted ahead of me in his position? He was talking about Antoine Walker and Kerry Kittles. And then he tapped him again. I was like, yo, I'm better than Antoine Walker. Dog, for someone his age to say that. And Antoine, he just won a national title, right?
Yeah.
Anything like that, you don't see dudes that he said it and he meant it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's cats that they'll say it, but they don't believe that, or they're not going to show you. Even with the whole Brandy thing, he was like, I'm going to show them that I'm going to be bigger than her. I know she's the thing. I'm going to show people I'm going to be bigger than her.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of players they say stuff, but they just kind of, it's like a fake confidence. No, Kobe, that was some real genuine confidence. That it wasn't something he had while he got better than NBA. He always had that, even as a high schooler. So that to me was very, very impressive. And just those moments, I'm better than Antoine Walker. Anybody at that time would thought he was crazy for saying that, but he believed it and he showed it. I think that was the big thing that I really took away. It's everything Kobe would say or he believed, he went and showed it, which is something you just don't really see much nowadays. So, I mean, you probably didn't see it a whole lot then, but you definitely don't see it as much now. So that was a big takeaway for me. And like you said, Chelsea, just the support system he had in that process. People trying to keep things low, right? Not trying to be loud. They're so loud with things.
Yeah.
That was good to hear. You kind of wish more people went that way. There's guys that you just know what they're gonna do, what school they're gonna go to and everything, and they're juniors in high school. You know what I mean? Know exactly.
They're loud about everything.
They're so loud about everything. Every time something comes up, they got to post, the top 12 schools, and and then 12 to 8, then 8 to 5, then 5 to 3, then 3 to 1, 3 to 2, 3, then 2 to 1. It was just dope that when he talked about just we're trying to keep it low key. That's something I wish more people, when people listen to that interview, they really take that. It's okay to be low key. You don't have to put all your business out there.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. You're right, because as he said, who knew? Him, Joe and the family, Sonny, and one more person who's now an agent, basically. And they, for 8 months or a year, kept it under wraps. Let's just say from the time from the ABCD camp, which would be July of 95 through the draft, which is June of 96. That's a pretty long time. That's a lot. And just to give people some background, again, Kobe was the number one player in the country, or him and Tim Thomas, whatever you want to call him, 1A, 1B. But he wasn't like that. As we said, it wasn't like he started from ninth grade and was some phenom and people were talking about him all over. It really got big, as Gary mentioned, and my recollection of it is when I don't know which came first. I'm not sure, but when he announced he was going to go to the draft, so that must have been right after the Brandy prom and the Brandy prom. When he took Brandy to prom, that was all over newspaper and everything. And I think Gary was like, shit, I don't got this might jack us up. Let's get to the draft as soon as possible because now everybody's talking about him. So my intention was, and what's crazy how things work out is I go back to that game that never took place because from our angle, it was a vacuum filled because Magic Johnson had Magic Johnson had announced his retirement from the Lakers, and then Harold Miner Baby Jordan played at USC. Then he went to the Heat, and it's kind of like he got a little injured. He got lost in the shuffle. Nobody talked about him. The Lakers didn't really have a star like that. Cedric Ceballos. They had Nick Van Exel was a good young player. So really, honestly, we were talking about Shea Cotton, like at that level. Like that was the hot ticket in basketball. Like, guys, go watch Shea Cotton play. Go watch him play. Go, I'll take you to the gym. Let's go to this high school gym. Oh, let's go to this summer league thing. Let's go to this AU tournament. Like his name was getting around at the highest levels for people to get tickets to. And it's similar to what you would say, Chelsea, if Caden Clark went to your city. Like, we got to go get those tickets.
Go watch.
Go watch. Like, you would watch him either at the Nike Extravaganza or some showcase. And he was supposed to be that guy. He's the guy that got excitement. Again, because we were at a point where it was just kind of Clippers weren't very great. And UCLA was good. But either this was right before they won the 95 title or right after. So it's like, but Shea Khan was already that big. He was as big as anybody at UCLA. So when that game got announced, it was like, oh, Kobe's going to come play Shea at Poly Pavilion. Like, ooh, So it was always a thing where Gary heard that and it was like, yeah, it could have changed our whole trajectory. Could have went the LA media get a hold of it. And if Kobe played really good, the LA media would have ran with it because, again, Kobe is probably a better player than Shea, but not necessarily at the time. You don't know that, Down the line, he obviously became. So it's just funny how everybody's path took a certain route with that. And again, it's just small little things that could have been different. Or if that game happens, maybe Kobe, maybe another team does say, you know what, we should take a chance on this kid and draft him higher than Charlotte. And now, like Gary said, I think Kobe would have still had the drive, but as we talked about on the last pod on 179, maybe his whole career just a little different. I just thought that was very, very interesting how it all played out for everybody. So what happened then is Kobe went on to be, USA Today Player of the Year in that type of thing. He did really well in the McDonald's. The McDonald's game was in Pittsburgh, so it was close to his hometown, and he played in the Round Ball Classic, which was in Detroit. So when that game didn't happen, Shea Cotton got hurt and missed some of his junior year. So it's kind of interesting how that played out for him. Because I would say in the summer of 95, before ABC, he was probably still the bigger name in high school basketball, Yeah. And then Lamar was coming along. And then Shea played against Lamar that summer and then hurt his shoulder and didn't even play his senior year. So it's fun. And then Kobe had already took off by then. He got drafted. The Lakers were, he was in LA already. So he was a huge name. He was becoming a huge name very fast. So, what did you guys think about them putting or thinking maybe Felipe Lopez was going to be the guy that Adidas should throw their endorsement at? I don't know. Again, Felipe is not a huge name now, but maybe throw their name to somebody else. Was that just luck or is it what did you guys think about that? In terms of them trying to find the next endorser for their company, because obviously he's with Adidas at the time, and this is a very competitive environment.
Well, honey.
I mean, especially at that time, that makes sense at that time. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. Of course, but I get it at the time, especially Sonny. This was success he has. You gotta find the next one, and you gotta find it early. So you're trying to find it early. So I understood. I had to do some research when I did hear that. I was like, why Felipe Lopez? What? Yeah, But going back, looking at that time, it's okay, I can see why. You're trying to hunt for that. You're trying to get it before other people kind of see it. Like a Under Armour Steph Curry type situation, even though Nike messed that up. But you're trying to find those. You're always trying to find those. So I get it. You're gonna try to find some sleepers. You're gonna try to, it's a hit or miss, but you're gonna try to find it. I get it. Yeah,
it's very interesting. Chelsea, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, but there's so much there. But it's just like I said, the simple little things that could have went in one way or another. It just worked out for them, and like you said, they kept it under wraps. Like Ani mentioned, they did a good job of that. And it just, I could imagine the elation they had on draft night. It just maybe the Coach Calipari thing kind of threw them off. Oh shit, he may go for him, But again, he's a rookie coach coming from college, and it's hey, man, I better take a college player that's a well-established player.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, Kobe aside, like timing is just really everything. Like we talked so much about this story, like one little change could have changed the trajectory of his career. And I think he still would have been great. But I thought about too, like, dang, what if he would have went to Duke? Like they said he wanted to go to Duke. Maybe he just says, maybe I'm not ready after all, and I go to college or whatever. Or maybe, Charlotte doesn't take that pick for LA and he ends up, on another team. Like things just worked out very perfect. And I think it just kind of like speaks to what we always talk about just journey. And, everybody's kind of path to success is different. And Kobe, did his time, ended up with the Lakers, didn't get it rolling right away, but he figured it out. And now he's an all-time great. So kudos to him and his family, because his family really set that up. And to Ani's point, kids need more family members and people around them that know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. I mean to cut you off, Ani. I just want to make the point that Jelly Bean was a college assistant. So it's not like he was coming into this. Yeah, even not like he was coming into this like green or anything. Yeah, he's a former player. He's a former NBA player and overseas pro. So that I think that helped get perspective from that. Any closing thoughts on that, Ani?
No, I mean, I'm just glad it went the way it did. It was a great interview. Honestly, it was a great interview. Like Chelsea said, Chelsea did make a good point. It's like, what if he like stayed in Charlotte, or like, what if the Charlotte kept the pick or something like? It's so endless. Like, listen to that interview. It's like, or what if that game happened that didn't happen? So many what ifs, and that's just kind of the beauty of it all. But like Chelsea said, he was going to be great anyways.
Yes.
But he had the right support. Yeah. And it's funny that we talk about support, because I've been texting, we get into the draft, like, see the call season about to end, you're going to get into some pre-draft stuff pretty soon. And now they're talking about characters. Guys are like, I don't know about his family, or this kid's family, or this, that, and the third. So just to talk about like, hey, this kid actually had it, and there wasn't any question marks as far as like when he was growing up. Like obviously the relationship changed, through Kobe's life with his parents, but just to see like good support systems generally produce really good basketball players and long-standing basketball players. Like at the end of the day, like that has to be consistent,
Yeah.
And he was going to be great, but it's funny, just kind of whatever things could have changed to where he played, but I think the results, maybe not the rings, but just his productivity was always going to be there because of who he was and who he had around him.
I agree.
Yep. Great. And just to give a little bit more on that, and then we'll let you guys go. So if you want to know a little bit more about the story, obviously, like Chelsea said, and Ani says, terrific insight from Gary Charles is Felipe Lopez, again, in his 30 for 30, the Dominican Dream. Go watch that if you get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Or the background on that is Sonny kind of mentioned maybe you should go pro, out of high school. And then he did, and he chose to go to St. John's. And then we talk about personalities. So two main points is that. And then the second point is that if you take yourself back to 1996, when we talk about Kobe, he's the first college bound type player that had the SAT and the grades to go to college. And that freaked people out. They're like, wait a minute, this kid has a 1300 SAT, great grades. Why is he going pro? It's just so different than now. So that freaked everybody out a little bit. Like, wait a minute, this is a big jump, a big leap. And then the second one is to a point we made in the last spot, is that he was a non-center, a non-big guy. He was 6'5", thin, 170, 175. That was a shock to people. Like, and maybe that's another reason why, again, Charlotte, and I know Kobe talked about it, is like, I'm glad Charlotte had no use for me. It drove me my whole career. A lot of teams had no use for a 6'5", 6'6", thin wing. Why are we going to take him so high? So I think that should be brought up, because the mindset was so different then. It's like no guard had ever went straight to the pros like that, and no kid who had ever qualified academically had went. So for more information about that, go listen to episode 54 of our podcast. It talks a lot about Kobe Bryant, and his Sonny Vaccaro talks a lot about him. Go watch Shea Cotton's documentary, The Man Child. that's a pretty good background if you don't know that much about Shea Khan and his background. The 30 for 30s we mentioned, Soul Man and the Dominican Dream about Felipe Lopez. Great story. And then our previous pods guests, The Darkness to Light, the story of Lamar Odom. Chris Palmer, our guest, wrote a book about Lamar Odom. Gives a lot. Lamar has been through a lot, Chelsea. I don't know if you know a little bit of his background. He was going to go to UNLV. He signed to go to UNLV. UNLV is going to maybe come back to the greatness that they had, and he had a lot of things going on. You know, he's been through a lot in his career, but his talent was, his talent was immense. So yeah, you know, so The Darkness to the Light, that's the name of the book that Chris Palmer wrote. So on that note, I think we're going to close it out. We wanted to give Kobe Bryant his kudos in his getting his statue unveiled. And okay, guys, well, yeah, episode 180 in the books. Thanks for staying with us. I know you appreciated that, and we appreciate the Gary Charles coming on. But for now, we're going to get out of here, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye, guys.